Do you hear that? It is NFL wildcard round, baby. Let's go. Panthers versus Rams. What a really competitive game this was. It was a back and forth contest the entire way through. For Carolina, Bryce Young was given it his all, and Chuba Hubbard scored 2 touchdowns in this game. But as for the Rams, Matthew Stafford is once again playing like an MVP candidate, and Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua are basically doing what they've been doing all season, putting up really good numbers. And the most memorable moment is the Rams' game-winning drive, where Matthew Stafford threw a pass to Colby Parkinson for a game-winning score and to secure a victory against Carolina 34-31. Matthew Stafford threw for 304 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. And Puka Nacua had 10 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown. And as for the Panthers, Bryce Young played better than I thought he did. 264 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and an interception. Chuba Hubbard had 13 carries for 46 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Jalen Coker had 9 receptions for 134 yards and a touchdown. I'll give a ton of props to the Carolina Panthers for keeping it competitive against the Los Angeles Rams. And speaking of the Rams, they're going to be moving on to the divisional round where they play the Chicago Bears. And that should be a really good game. Actually, now thinking about it, all these divisional round games next week are going to be good games. So, yeah. Bears versus Packers. What a wild game this was. In the first half, Green Bay took a commanding 21-3 lead. Chicago struggled the entire first half by trying to go for it on a 4th down, and they did not convert as Caleb Williams threw 2 interceptions. And it looked like Matt LaFleur's Green Bay squad was about to pull up a huge upset at Soldier Field. But then the script changed in the second half as Chicago scored 28 unanswered points, including the game-winning DJ Moore touchdown to go up by 4 with less than 2 minutes left to go. But Green Bay drove into Chicago territory to possibly go for a game-winning touchdown. And then on the last play, Jordan Love was scrambling out of the pocket, dodging tackles, and then his pass in the end zone was incomplete to give Chicago their first playoff win in over a decade. Caleb Iceman Williams wasn't perfect in this game, but he did come through when it mattered most. 361 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. DeAndre Swift had 13 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown. And Colson Loveland led the team in receiving yards with 8 receptions for 137 yards. He had a hell of a game. And as for Green Bay, Jordan Love had a really good game, and he unfortunately got let down by his defense and his kicker. Love threw for 323 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. And Romeo Doubs also had a really good game. And I'm not even kidding you. This dude was always open on huge plays. And I cannot discredit that. He had 8 receptions for 124 yards and a touchdown. And let's not forget Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, and Christian Watson had a touchdown in this game. And congrats to the Chicago Bears, who have finally won their first playoff game since 2011, when Jay Cutler was their starting quarterback. The Packers now have their second straight wildcard loss in the Jordan Love era, and the Bears are moving on to the divisional round against the LA Rams. Jaguars versus Bills. What an exciting game this was. Trevor Lawrence versus Josh Allen was absolute cinema. It was a back and forth contest all game long in Jacksonville, Florida. And both quarterbacks gave it their all. And then late in the fourth quarter, Allen converted a 4th and inches, setting him up at the 1. And then he scored a 1-yard rushing touchdown to give Buffalo a 27-24 lead. And Trevor Lawrence has less time to try to get the Jaguars into field goal range. And on the first snap of his possible game-winning drive, he threw a game-losing interception to give the Bills a 27-24 road win. Allen wasn't perfect in this game, but he came through when it mattered most, so he deserves credit for that. Allen wasn't perfect in this game, but he really came through when it mattered most. He had a nice touchdown pass to Dalton Kincaid, and he also ran for 2 touchdowns on the ground. Trevor Lawrence, he had a really good game, but he did have 2 interceptions, one of which was the game-losing interception. But I did think he played really good in this game. And huge shout out to Parker Washington. 7 receptions for 107 yards and a touchdown. Unfortunate news for the Buffalo Bills. Gabe Davis tore his ACL in this game, and his season is pretty much over. But hey, he won against his former team, so in the end, I guess he won. Huge shout out to the Jaguars. They came into the season with not a lot of expectations, and they finished the year 13-4 and won the AFC South. And as for the Buffalo Bills, they are moving on to the divisional round where they go on the road to play Denver at Mile High. And that game should be interesting. Eagles versus 49ers. The Niners managed to pull out a road win at Philly, and it was all caught on camera. Brock Purdy had a really up and down game. He threw for 262 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, which is great, but he also threw 2 interceptions. Philly's defense held Christian McCaffrey to 3.2 yards per carry, and Demarcus Robinson, of all people, had 6 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown, and also prayers to George Kittle, who unfortunately got carted off in this game. And as for the Birds, the real culprit for this loss was, unsurprisingly, A.J. Brown. He had 7 targets in this game, and he caught only 3 of them. And 4 of those targets were crucial. Like, really crucial. He had so many crucial drops in this game that he cost Philly big time. AJ, you were bitching all season long about not getting any targets, and when you were getting targets, you completely blew it. Eagles, I'm honestly happy you guys lost, because the way you were handling half of these losses this year is just absolute insanity. Because whenever your team is winning games, you're like, go Birds! Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the league. We are winning the Super Bowl. But whenever your team loses, or when your team goes 3 and out on offense, you're like, oh yeah, our team sucks. We should fire Nick Sirianni and Kevin Batula. Like, how are you so quick to betraying your own team like that? Like, if my team wins the Super Bowl and we underperform the next following season, I wouldn't even care. Like, I would be happy that my team wins the Super Bowl. And I don't even care if we suck as long as I live. I will be happy that we won that Super Bowl. But I guess that's how it goes if you're rooting for a Philly sports fan. Like, your team will have talent, and then you will be loud and proud when your team is winning. But when your team loses, or when your team gets eliminated from the playoffs, you're quick to betraying them. Like, this is why Philly sports fans are the worst. And one more thing, Philly cheesesteaks are garbage.
Sayonara, Eagles. Sayonara.
Patriots versus Chargers. The Patriots crushed the Chargers 16-3 at Foxborough. Drake May was really shaky for the first 3 quarters. He committed a fumble, and he also threw an interception. But in the fourth quarter, he put the nails on the coffin by throwing a beautiful touchdown pass to Hunter Henry to give New England the win. And as for the Chargers, Justin Herbert had a really frustrating day. He was running for his life all game long, didn't feel comfortable in the pocket, and was sacked 6 times. Herbert is now 0-3 in the playoffs in his NFL career. And as for New England, it was a huge win, and they won their first playoff game since 2018, where they won the Super Bowl that year with Tom Brady. And now they are on to the divisional round against the Houston Texans, which has a really scary defense, and I wouldn't be surprised if Drake May has a tough time against that elite defense. And finally, Steelers versus Texans. And speaking of the Texans, their defense was incredible all night long. They held Pittsburgh to just 6 points in the first half and 0 in the second half. They had 2 forced fumbles, and one of which was a fumble recovery for a scoop and score touchdown. They sacked Rodgers 4 times. And on Rodgers' last passing play was a pick 6 from Callum Bullock to give Houston the win for good. CJ Stroud didn't have a perfect performance in this game, but he did his job well. He threw for 250 passing yards. He had a nice touchdown pass to Christian Kirk, but he also threw an ugly interception. And Marks, he was incredible in this game. 19 carries for 112 yards and a touchdown. Christian Kirk also had 8 receptions for 144 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers' stats for possibly his last NFL game was 17 for 33, 146 passing yards, and an interception, which was a pick 6. Prior to another wild card loss for the Steelers, Mike Tomlin has stepped down as Steelers head coach after 19 years with the organization. If you honestly hate the Steelers, like me, then this game was for you. But in all seriousness, if this is Aaron Rodgers' last game, all I gotta say is, what a hell of a career. A 4-time NFL MVP, a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. We'll miss you, A-Rod. But let's be honest. He's going to spend his free time with his quote-unquote girlfriend, and he's going to take ayahuasca or mushrooms or whatever he's taking in his spare time. And before this game even happened, Houston was 0-6 in road playoff games in their entire history. And they finally did it. They won their first road playoff game in franchise history. So, congrats to them. God, it's always great to see the Steelers lose in the wildcard round. But anyways, that's going to do it for the wildcard recap, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.